At exactly 1 minute, I will do my introduction. That's some good stuff right here. Pre-workout. That's exactly what I'm going to do after I talk some college football. 20 seconds, I get started. Okay, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the GNS Coverage College Football Recap Show, Episode 2. This is a weekly recap show that I started doing so I can start talking about all the teams at once and go on and on about it and interact with my fan base or other people that will join my fan base. Here we go. This past Thursday, we had Pittsburgh taking on Boston College. This was a pretty good game. I watched highlights of it mostly. I watched it a little bit on and off. But Pittsburgh won their third game of the season. They are now 3-8. Boston College is 6-5. They're going to a bowl game anyway, so they're set for that. Friday, man, this game really hurt as a college football fan. It hurt me because I'm a Deion Sanders fan, and I like what he's done with Colorado personally by bringing in players, his own family, and trying to establish a winning program. They lost 56-14. Shador Sanders also got hurt. Shout out to him. I hope he's going to be okay. I just didn't like seeing that. I liked how Colorado started off 3-0. They upset a top 25 ranked TCU team on the road, and it created a lot of attention. And lately, they've just struggled a lot, But they've been playing some pretty good teams, and they're probably going to lose next week, too, to a really good Utah team. So those are my thoughts on that. I hope Colorado, and I think they will get a lot better next year. Deion Sanders is going to hit the transfer portal again, probably. Probably he will because he's a guy that likes to win. And I think he's going to bring in some offensive linemen. I hope he does. And brings in some better players for that defense. Most notably the linebacker position and defensive line. There's other position groups that need to improve, but the lines of scrimmage are my main concern if I'm a Colorado fan. So those are my thoughts on that. I mean, not a great team, not a good team by any means, but not terrible either. They're definitely a better program than what they were last year. I do think Deion Sanders made the right decision by bringing in a whole bunch of other players. He just has to get more elite talent. That's all. Penn State beat Rutgers 27-6. That's a good win for Penn State. They are now 9-2. They'll probably be 10-2 when they play Michigan State next week. Probably the Rose Bowl again, I'm guessing, or maybe the Cotton Bowl. They deserve a New Year's Six bowl. I don't think James Franklin is a bad coach. I think he's a really good coach. He just has yet to. And people talk about Drew Allar like he's not very good. You guys don't understand. He's still just a baby. He hasn't played much college football. And Michigan and Ohio State's defenses are not jokes this year. I'm being honest about that. So, of course, you're going to struggle against those defenses. I mean, who knows? Maybe next year he'll be a lot better. But if I was James Franklin, I would work on getting another quarterback through the transfer portal. Not to necessarily take his job, to say. Because you have won 9 games with Drew Allar, so that's good. And again, like I said, you'll probably win 10, and then your bowl game too, whoever you play, because you're a really good football team. I just think you need to get somebody to push Drew Allar to make him understand, hey, I'm the guy, but it's not guaranteed. Somebody else wants to take my cookie, so I need to step up my game and compete better. And he'll have a better chance to do that. Next year, they have a lot of teams joining the Big Ten. USC, I think, is one of them. Oregon, Washington. So he's going to have a chance to do that against some pretty good defenses next year. Moving on. Louisiana Monroe played at Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I would say they were just holding back a lot of things. They knew they were a better team. They clearly just wanted to get a W. Now they have 9 wins this year. That's really good for Ole Miss. I'm not too surprised. Lane Kiffin has been there for a while. Hold on. And he hasn't been elite, But clearly, Ole Miss is a better program than what it was in 2019 before he got there. They were not a winning program. Now they're winning games every year. So, as far as him being a college football playoff team, I don't know. But is Ole Miss good enough to win at least 10 games or more? Heck yeah, I think that's really good for Lane Kiffin. So, much respect to him and what he's done. In all fairness, the only losses that he's had has been to the two teams playing an SEC championship in a couple of weeks. So that's not terrible. They'll probably finish in the top 10 somewhere by the end of the year and might win a New Year's Six bowl. I think they should. Tulane beat Florida Atlantic 24-8. Another good win for Tulane. Outside of that Ole Miss game, they haven't lost to anybody. So that's really good. Back-to-back double-digit winning seasons. I think they're 10-1 now, right? They're ranked in the top 25, so hats off to those guys. Michigan barely beats Maryland. And I know what you guys are thinking. Well, now that everyone knows about the science team, they're not a very good team. Well, look, and I'm not defending Michigan here, but I am saying if you're a good team, you're a good team regardless of what you do. Clearly, Michigan's defense is not a joke. They held Maryland to like 20, 30 yards rushing yesterday. So that's pretty darn impressive on the road. Michigan's offense, look, Michigan understands they're playing Ohio State next week, right? And I know for a fact, and here's the thing, they lost one of their offensive linemen yesterday, too. I do think Michigan is way better than that. I mean, this same Michigan team struggled with Maryland at home last year, so I'm not too surprised that they struggled. If you go back through my channel, I made a video this past Friday about this game in particular, and I said Maryland would keep it closer to 19 points because that was the point spread for Michigan. I do think Michigan is better than a touchdown when it comes to Maryland. But Michigan did win this game. They held on to win. They ran the football pretty well. Defense played lights out for the most part. And Tagovailoa is a really good quarterback. If you watch him play, he just needs a better team around him. You know, if he was at Alabama, you know, or somewhere where there's a lot of talent, for example, he'd do a lot better. So it's not all his fault. What else? BYU beat. Who did I write down here? They beat somebody. Oh, Cincinnati. I think they played Cincinnati yesterday. Their score was, no, they lost to Oklahoma. I'm so sorry about that. They lost to Oklahoma. Speaking of lost, Oklahoma lost Dylan Gabriel. That's a Texas fan. Let me bring out my Texas jersey for a second here. I'm a classy Texas fan. I'm an honest Texas fan. Oklahoma, I hope your quarterback Dylan Gabriel gets well soon. Nobody likes to see injuries like that. Hey, you guys are having a great season. You guys kicked our butts. You've won 9 games this year. You'll probably finish with at least 10, 11 games. So hats off to you right there. That's amazing. Oklahoma's a really good football team this year. They really are. And I think they're going to do great in the SEC. They got another win yesterday. They surpassed their win total. I think Brent Venables is doing an amazing job at Oklahoma. And I said before the season started, I said Oklahoma would win more than 6 games this year. They would win no less than 8 games. And I was right. So hats off to the Sooners. Chattanooga and Alabama. Alabama put up 66 points. They did what they expected to do. I think they ran up the score just a little bit just because they could. They have 10 wins also. So congrats to Alabama. They're 10-1. They'll be 11-1 when they play Auburn. I'll get into Auburn in just a second. A little later on. As an Auburn fan, I was pretty mad yesterday, so I didn't even make the video. They did what they were supposed to do. Next up, Liberty. Man, these boys are 11-0. They held off UMass to a big win. They won 49-25. Man, that's awesome. That's really awesome. I was happy to see Liberty. Here's the thing, guys. I don't follow Liberty very closely, but anytime a team is 11-0, I don't care who you are. I don't care who you play. That's always amazing. And in college football, it's very, very hard to win, especially consistency. There's very few teams in the country at this point, let alone this year, but every year, especially this time of the year, it's very hard for anybody to go undefeated. Because you're always getting everybody's best shot when you're undefeated and when you're ranked in the top 25. So hats off to Liberty. I hope they get a nice bowl game if they get one at all. I don't know how that goes. I know James Madison isn't supposed to be getting one. That's not fair. But I'll get into that in another video. Despite their loss yesterday. Speaking of loss, Miami, y'all embarrassed me, man. I picked y'all. A Seminole speaking highly about Miami. Well, I ain't doing that no more. Ugh. Man, y'all had a chance to win that game. Man, what was that guy doing on defense? He slapping the guy at the end of the play. I understand the guy put his hands on you and it kept you from grabbing the ball. Could have been pass interference. But That was a good coaching call, going for it on fourth down right there at the 3 yard line, because chances are you're going to stop Louisville because they're not looking to score at that point. They'd be content with punting the football and giving it back to you near midfield somewhere, and you'd have a chance to score again. Because Tyler Van Dyke played pretty good. But no, y'all didn't want to do that. Y'all wanted to have stupid penalties at the end of the game. So you know what? Get out of here, Miami. Ugh. Still better than last year, but you're not good. Moving on. I lost money in that game, by the way. Speaking of loss, James Madison. Man, these guys really deserve a bowl game. They should still get a bowl game. They're 10-1, double-digit winning season. Still very hard to do in college football. Appalachian State has always been known for upsetting people. They beat Texas A&M last year where they were in the top 10. They were in the top 10, weren't they? They beat Michigan years ago at their house. That was funny. Even as a Michigan fan, I can laugh about that now. Well, I didn't like college football in 07. I was too young for that. I didn't care about it, but now I do. But yeah, it's a heartbreaking loss for James Madison. But hey, they got 10 wins. There's a lot of teams in the country that can't say that. So they can laugh at those teams. Utah and Arizona. This game surprised me a little bit. I mean, I knew Arizona had a chance to win this game. I didn't think they went outright like they did. 42-18. My goodness. Man, Utah. They seriously need Cam Rising back. I mean, they're a really good football team. What are they now? 7-4? They're 7-4. They lost to Oregon State. They lost to Oregon. They lost to Washington. Yeah, they're 7-4. Still a winning season. I mean, it's not bad. Kyle Whittingham's a really good coach, so I'm sure he'll have them better next year. But that's not his fault. I mean, Cam Rising couldn't go. And I'm pretty sure throughout the offseason, they kind of knew there was a big chance he couldn't go this year, but they also knew there was a chance that he could possibly play. So that's why their offense has been so BAD this year. But I still respect Utah. They're going to the Big 12 next year, so maybe they'll be more successful. Scratch that. They will be more successful. Colorado's going to be a lot better next year, probably. They're going to have TCU over there. They're going to have Kansas State, Kansas to worry about, but I don't think they're anywhere near. They're good teams, but Texas and OU will be gone, and they won't be in the Pac-12 with Washington, Oregon, and Oregon State even, because they're a pretty good team too, even though they lost yesterday. I'll get into that in a second, but I mean, hey, that's still good for Arizona to win like that. Georgia did about what I expected to do. I mean, Tennessee's a tough team. They're not a pushover by any means. But Georgia is just too talented. They're way too much for a team like Tennessee. And I watched Tennessee play against Graham Mertz. I watched him play against, who's been pretty good this year, but still a guy who at that point did not look good before that game. And he tore up Tennessee's secondary, especially in that first half. Missouri beat them by running the football and by throwing it everywhere. Jalen Milroe looked pretty good throwing the football against Tennessee also. So I knew if these guys could throw the ball. Devin Leary, even though Kentucky lost to Tennessee, looked good. That was probably his only game where he looked good throwing the football. If I knew they could, Carson Beck's a really good player. I knew he'd have a field day throwing that football around. It would just be a matter of when, because eventually it was going to take over. Because Tennessee's defense was in his face for a little while, but Georgia's just too talented. That defense is nothing to mess with. And again, Tennessee's offense has never been consistent this year, but it's been pretty good. But it's one-dimensional because they run the football a lot, and it relies a lot on Milton to make good slant passes to throw the football downfield. And if he can't do that, you're probably going to lose the game. So I'm not surprised there. I mean, Tennessee's 7-4 now. That's not terrible. You know, they're going to have another winning season under Heupel, whatever his name is. That's still better than what they were before they got him. So I still think he's doing a good job. Tennessee's going to get better. Just not this year, unfortunately. Notre Dame, they're 8-3 now. They destroyed Wake Forest, Sam Hartman's old team. Poor Wake, they're not going to a bowl. They're 4-7. Their season's pretty much over. Notre Dame still has a chance to finish the season with 10 wins. If they win next week with Stanford and they win their bowl game, whoever they play, they have a chance to win 10 games. That would be huge for Marcus Freeman. I've had some people talk about he's a downgrade from Brian Kelly. He is and he's not. He is because he doesn't have the experience as a head coach as Brian Kelly does. So in that way, he is. But in the long term, I think he's a good addition to Notre Dame as a head football coach because, again, he's going to get experience. He's going to get better. I mean, outside the look, and I know he lost like he did at Clemson, but Clemson just doesn't lose at home. I mean, Clemson, you look at them, they got 4 losses, yes, but 3 of those games were road games. The only one home loss they had was to Florida State, and Florida State's undefeated right now. So I don't see where Marcus Freeman has done anything wrong. I mean, even then, Clemson not a terrible team. Their defense is legit. Their offense is still explosive. They still run the football well. It's just outside the turnovers. I mean, easily if they play Duke now, they could beat Duke because Duke is 6-5 right now. So I don't see where Clemson's all that bad. That loss at Clemson was all that bad. I think if they played them at home, it would have been a different story because Notre Dame has done pretty well this year. Um, they have not really lost to anybody bad. I mean, Louisville's top 10. Ohio State's one of the best teams in the country. They're undefeated. They did lose at Clemson, but outside of that, they've beaten everybody else they're supposed to beat. So I think Marcus Freeman is still headed in the right direction. His recruiting's done pretty well. I just think it's going to take time before they're a national championship team. They have talent. He clearly has good defenses there, but it'll get better. It will. You know, they lost a lot of players last year, but so I expect them to do better. Just give that man time. It's not like they're having a losing season or barely making a bowl. I mean, come on, man. Notre Dame wasn't elite with Brian Kelly there anyway, so we'll see. Shout out to Brian Kelly. Where was I? Oh, yes. Speaking of Clemson, they won their final home game of the year against North Carolina. That's a good win, 31-20. That's about what I expected. I thought it might have been a little close. Hey, welcome to the live stream, by the way. I can't see who it is. I just saw a head pop up. Welcome. I'll get into that when I get to the Washington game. That's a really good question. I might even make a separate video about that. Hey, AIP, what's up, man? It's you. Hey, before I go any further, AIP, you've watched my channel for over a year. And just last week, I finally hit the milestone of getting 1,000 subscribers. I don't have all the watch hours yet. I just wanted to say shout out to you. Thank you for watching all my videos, for interacting with me with all my videos. You've been very loyal to me. And I really appreciate that. Even though you don't like the right Big 12 school, I'm okay with that. Either way, we both don't like Oklahoma. You need to start making some videos again, man. I remember you made a few videos last year. Hey, yeah, I did see when you took that shot at me when Oklahoma State came back. You said, horns down. Man, that's okay. You're all right, man. Hey, man, again, thanks for watching me, man. I appreciate you. I hope you don't leave. You've been very loyal, and you've been pretty cool to interact with on here. So thanks, man. There's quite a few people, but you've been one of the first people to be consistent, you know, because I'm not famous yet. I'm not very big yet on YouTube, and I plan to be. And hopefully you're there for the long run, man. Thank you. Again, you should make some videos, man. You do pretty good. I remember watching you last year when you would troll other teams that play Tennessee or Oklahoma State. Just don't troll Texas again. I'm kidding. Huh? How do you know that I've been watching? Because I remember when I talked about Oklahoma last year, how Texas was going to beat them down because they lost Dylan Gabriel. And Texas was getting Quinn Ewers back. That's about the time I saw you starting to comment. And I've seen your name a lot, AIP Dog. I think that's the first time I saw you. So that's how I know you've been watching me a lot. I've always seen you comment on my stuff. I've given you hearts, and I've letting you know, hey, I see you, man. And I like to interact with my people when they comment on my stuff. So I'm assuming it's been about a year, maybe more, maybe less, but I've seen you on a lot of my stuff. So that's how I know it's you. Where was I? But yeah, Clemson's defense is legit. They're really good. It's just that turnover problem for Clemson. It was a problem last year at the end of the year, and it's just continued to be a problem. So that's a red flag. But again, Clemson's going to have a winning season. They're 7-4. The worst they could be at this point is 7-6. They could lose to South Carolina, which I did predict last night, by the way, and they could lose their bowl game. But still, a 7-6 record is their worst case. Best case, 9-4. Obviously, they beat South Carolina and they beat whoever they play in their bowl. But they've won 3 games in a row, so that's pretty good. Speaking of pretty good, Texas A&M is also guaranteed a winning season. They beat somebody called ACU 38-10 yesterday. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good because now they're guaranteed to have a winning season. Last year, obviously, they finished 5-7. They do have a chance with LSU next week, even though it's in Death Valley. A&M's not a terrible team. They're a pretty good team, obviously just not well coached, and that's Jimbo Fisher's fault. So I do think they'll be a lot better, and they could win 9 games. They could beat LSU and beat whoever they play in their bowl, or at worst 7-6, lose to LSU and lose whoever they play to in their bowl. A very talented team. All they need is a half-decent coach that's willing to adapt and change things up and not just stick to one thing and blame his players. That's really all Texas A&M needs because they got the elite talent. And if they have that, they'll win more games than what they've been winning. And then by then, I mean, players are naturally going to go to a team that's winning. So why not? Especially when they know there's other talented elite players there. Speaking of elite, Ohio State, they won 37-3 over Minnesota. They beat the they beat the soul out of them, basically. Good win for Ohio State. Oh, as a Michigan fan, I'm gonna have fun talking so much trash about Ohio State. Ooh-wee. Let's go. But yeah, good win for them. They've won 11 games, 2 years in a row now. Double digit, well, actually 3 years. They when they lost to Michigan 2 years ago, they also lost to Oregon. But that's the same year they went on to win the Rose Bowl. They finished 11-2. That's still pretty good. Ryan Day is a good coach, man. I hate to say that, but even as a Michigan fan, I will admit I think he's a really good coach. Definitely capable of winning a national championship at Ohio State. So I see a lot of people hate on him because he's lost to Michigan back-to-back years. But even as a Michigan fan, I'm willing to put all that aside and say, hey, man, now that the sign stealing's been going on, you got to imagine Ohio State's going to play better. Oh, I'm going to go to your channel and watch some of your videos, and that's what I'll do for you, man. But hey, that's awesome. Why'd you quit, man? You shouldn't have quit. Is it because people leave nasty comments on your stuff? I get those all the time. Anytime I have someone that gives me a nasty comment or acts hateful, I just reply with, hey, thanks for watching, because it's like, hey, I see you're hating on me, but you're also taking time and energy out of your day to watch me. So that's how I would approach that if I were you, if that was the reason. I mean, I don't know what you do in your personal life or whatnot, but I mean, I can understand there are some hateful people out there, but that's how I deal with them. You know, I embrace them and I appreciate them. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that Michigan Ohio State game next week. I personally think Michigan's going to beat them again, but that's just my opinion. Oklahoma State, they're 8-3. They came back and beat Houston yesterday. Houston is just outmatched. I don't think they were ready. I didn't think, and I thought this was a possibility. I didn't think they were ready to jump into the Big 12. And the Big 12 is never elite or great, but they're always competitive. They always beat each other up. They're not terrible teams. So I knew Houston would have a problem with that. By next year, you should see Houston be more adapted to the bigger players, to playing more players that are better, and they'll get better. But Oklahoma State was trailing in that game. This time they responded the right way. I'm talking about your team now, so I'm sure you're watching closely. Oklahoma State's a good team this year. They're 8-3 at worst case, and they'll probably make it to the Big 12 championship. They've lost 2 games like all the others or more. So if they beat whoever they play this week, they'll probably play Texas. And as a Texas fan, that worries me because Texas likes to lose to Oklahoma State a lot. So we'll see. They haven't beat them in 3 years. Yeah, man, don't take it personally. I mean, think about it. I've had people call me dumb. They call me stupid. They've insulted Florida State, my Michigan teams. Ohio State fans, they're probably the worst to deal with. Actually, and when it comes to rivalries, I will admit as a Seminole fan, Miami fans and Florida fans are pretty cool. I don't have a problem with them, really. I mean, I talk trash because that's what I do with some of my videos, but I don't take it to a personal level. I understand some people like to do that, but if I were you, man, you can either just ignore them and keep doing you, or you can comment back and be nice about it, because then they're not going to give you that reaction like, man, this guy ain't even mad. They'll probably stick around and keep watching your stuff just to tell you how dumb you are, because that's what I get a lot of, you know. That's why people like to watch Uncle Lou, because, yeah, he's funny, but he talks a lot of trash, but it's entertaining. Oh, the Texas fan, I don't want that. No, I don't want that, because Kansas State's a pretty good team. No. But Oklahoma State deserves it too, because they're a pretty decent team. They did come back and win yesterday. They're 8-3. I think Kansas State also 8-3. Are they not? I think they are, right? Something like that. They're a winning team too. They're pretty good. It's pretty good. Speaking of Oregon, they dominated Arizona State 49-13. I'm not surprised about how they did in that game. Oregon's a pretty good team this year, and I like Oregon. You know, I've always admired them and respected them ever since Marcus Mariota was there. And here's my Marcus Mariota jersey. Guys, this is the Oregon jersey I'll be wearing in a lot of my videos. I'm going to keep wearing them. Probably going to start trolling Washington soon, because I know it's going to be us and them again in the Pac-12 championship. So I'm excited about that game. I respect Washington and all, but the way they've been playing lately, And watch us blow out Oregon State. Show y'all how to actually blow out a team that you're clearly better than. Washington couldn't do that. Can't score in the second half. My goodness. Let's see. Florida State. And I want to talk about Florida State a little bit more than I did the other teams just now. Because, yes, they lost Jordan Travis, and I hope he's okay. But, look, Florida State's got nothing but elite players on that team right now. Yes, they lost Jordan Travis. Yes, they've had some struggle wins. They've played better than Washington has. I don't understand. I've ran into so many people who clearly don't understand football. Washington, let me see. They're not wasting your time. They're wasting their own time. I say they're wasting their time because they're taking their time and energy to give you attention. Because that's what YouTube is all about. It's all about getting viewers. It's all about getting reactions out of people. So if anything, don't feel like they're wasting your time, man. No, they're your audience. They choose to give their time to you. So I wouldn't be mad about that, man. I would let that go. But what was I? Yeah, but Florida State's got Glenn at quarterback. They've got Rodemaker, who's been there for 4 years now. He's been there as long as Norvell has. So now I will admit, I think losing Jordan Travis, you lose a mobile quarterback. But yes and no, because again, Rodemaker's a pretty good athlete. He's got plenty of experience. His best experience, which is basically his only meaningful experience, not as a true freshman, but last year when it was his third year in the system, he helped Florida State come back and beat Louisville at Louisville. And you know the history, Florida State always struggles when they play Louisville, especially when it's over there at Louisville, because Louisville's always had their number for some reason. If you look from 2014 to now, I think it's tied. Let's see, Florida State beat them in 14-15. They beat them in 18 and 19, and they beat them this past year. They've beaten them 5 times. Now here's Louisville's 16, 17, 2020 with COVID, and 5-4 Florida State, but still pretty even. I know, and I agree with you, man. I hate injuries too. You know, I talked about Graham Mertz last night in a video with Travis because they play each other next week, and now they're probably not even going to play. They're not even going to see each other in the same field. I don't, and even as a Seminole, you know, I don't like to see players get hurt, even players on teams like Florida or Miami that I don't like as a college football fan. I'm one of those guys that will put all that aside and say, hey, injury, something personal. I won't make fun of that. I'm not going to troll that. I didn't like how Graham Mertz got hurt, man. It was kind of his fault, you know. Did you see that play, AIP? He dipped his shoulder and he was running forward and he basically ran over 2 Missouri linebackers or whatever it was. He put them both on their butts. It was hilarious. And he got him and was all hyped about it. Like, let's go! And then after that adrenaline wore off, he was like, you know, something was wrong with him. And then I think they ran one more play with him and he was pointing to his collarbone. So I don't know what happened, but it looked serious, especially if he couldn't stand there and play like that. So Florida's in trouble. And even with him, to be honest, I think Florida State is just better. I think they would beat Florida. So, yeah. Man, get out of here. You see how I'm reacting to you? I'm going out of my way to give you attention now. That's the approach you should take, man. I mean, look, people are people. There's nice people. There's jerks on YouTube. But in real life, I mean, I wouldn't get mad about that, man. See, I'm not bothered by it. I don't care. I watched a little bit. I saw they were down 13-0. That's when I saw Jordan Travis get hurt. Here's the thing about Florida State. All year, they've been able to respond. They've responded to adversity. They've responded. And Jordan Travis is not the only injury they've had this year. So, and even if, to be honest, if Jordan Travis doesn't come back this year, I'm not too worried because the quarterbacks Norvell's been getting, they're all at least 4 or 5 stars, except Rodemaker. Rodemaker was a 3-star, but again, this is his 4th year in the system. Jordan Travis was also a 3-star, you know? And again, you don't have Jordan Travis, so you don't have that quarterback with that special athleticism that he has been spinning and shifting to where guys can't tackle him. But the talent on that team is scary. It's ridiculous. And Florida State does have one of the best defenses in the country. I think they only give up 17, 18 points a game. They're really disciplined. They do force turnovers. Their red zone defense is pretty good. Really good, actually. They don't give up much in the red zone. Usually a bunch of field goals. They have stopped people on 4th down. The only team to shut down LSU's offense is Florida State. I mean, Alabama held them under 30 points, but their defense did not contain Jaden Daniels and keep him from running wild on them. That's really the only problem. You know, if you look at Jaden Daniels, because he's a Heisman candidate, right? The only game where he looked BAD in was Florida State. He did do a lot to Florida State, and he did finish the game with over 300 passing yards. But the garbage time touchdown that they had was because they put in their backups, and Florida State was up 45-17. And they made Jane Daniels not look like a Heisman favorite in that game. Let's just say that. So my point is, if Florida State's defense can shut down the best offense in the country, which is LSU's, because they put up 50 points or more a game, they can play with anybody. And Florida State's offense, even without Jordan Travis, in my opinion, is still going to be very explosive. They already don't turn the ball over. They run the football okay. They're not great at it. I think they're going to get a lot better now that they know Jordan Travis is out of there. And even then, all of Florida State's quarterbacks are mobile. They can run. Tate Rodemaker is not a Jordan Travis mobile, but I've seen him run. He can run if he needs to. He's got a really good deep ball. He's a pretty good passer. And since he's been in there for 4 years, he's going to be better than what he was as a freshman. Let me see. So I want to ask this question, but why are you as a Texas fan? I like Texas because I just like their colors. I like the fight song. I like the horns up thing. I started pulling them for them when Tom Herman went there in 2017 because Tom Herman was pretty good at Houston. I remember he beat a top 10 Florida State team. He beat Oklahoma when Oklahoma was like number 3 in the preseason. And he beat Lamar Jackson when he was there with Louisville. And I remember Louisville in 2016, they were number 5. And they felt disrespected that they weren't number in the top 4 with Clemson and all them at the time when Deshaun Watson was there. That was a long time ago. But I remember Louisville went to Houston. That was Tom Herman's last year with Houston before he went to Texas. And they beat Louisville down. They harassed Lamar Jackson. He looked bad in that game. He didn't do anything with Houston in that game. So I've always liked Texas this thing because they've always been really tough. It's one of those teams where they always say that they're back, and sometimes it's funny that they're not back, even though this year they might be back. I just like Texas. I like the orange. I like their fight song. They have a real beautiful stadium. I'd like to go to one of their games one day. And I just like their band, There's just something about Texas that I really like. So that's why I'm a fan. And I live in Florida. I live near Tallahassee. I'm not telling you where, but yes, I like Florida State. I've always pulled for them. I've pulled for them since 2012. That was the year before they won the national championship with Jameis Winston. E.J. Manuel was their quarterback, and I remember they won the Orange Bowl that year, so I've always admired Florida State. I like the tomahawk shot. Oh! I've always liked their band, and I live near Florida State. And to this day, I have yet to go to an FSU game, a home game or an away game. So it's just simple things. Like I'm a music guy. I like music, so when I like your fight song, that attracts my attention to your team, I guess. If I like your colors, I like garnet and gold. I like orange. And the thing about Texas and Florida State, what they have in common, they're both physical teams. They both are tough, durable, physical, hard-hitting, smash-mouth teams. So I like that about football. That's why I like Michigan. That's why I like Auburn. They're tough, physical, hard-nosed teams. Their defenses, when they're both good teams, at least good, respectable teams, they give anybody a hard game. So if that answers your question, I don't know. Where was I? Ooh, Kansas State beat Kansas yesterday. They beat them 31 to 27. That was a really good game, I guess. I didn't watch the game. Yes, I got a favorite team for every conference, actually. Every conference. That's probably going to have to change, but because of all the conferences changing teams and whatnot, but it won't matter. I'll figure something out. Florida lost a heartbreaker at Missouri. They could have won this game. I will give Florida that. I wasn't too surprised because they normally beat Missouri. And Missouri is a top 10 team, but they're not a top 10 team in my opinion. I'll tell you why. Because, let's be honest, I know Missouri's having a good year. They've kind of come out of nowhere. That defense is not going to help them beat a top 10 team. They wouldn't. They've already lost to Georgia. I don't think they'd beat Florida State. I don't see them beating Washington, Oregon, Texas, Alabama. I don't see them beating those teams. Now, do I think Missouri's a top 15 team? Yeah. And I do think Arkansas could beat them if they play their best game because Arkansas is not terrible. They just had a lot of injuries, even though they're not going to a bowl game. Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. Kansas State's pretty good. What's next? Washington, Oregon State. Man, that game makes me mad. Watch Oregon beat Oregon State to the ground. Couldn't score in the second half. Man, get out of here. Texas, speaking of Iowa State, I was surprised how they beat them. They beat them without their running back. They beat them by 10 points in their house. I was really happy about this game. And did you know that Texas has finally won 10 games for the first time in 5 years? And this is a better 10-win season for me because of how they beat Georgia in that Sugar Bowl 5 years ago. Georgia had a lot of players out. They clearly didn't care to be there. So it wasn't as satisfying. This is really good for Texas because they're going to the SEC next year. I think they'll be okay. More than okay because they got the talent. They play physical, so they can play with anybody in the SEC. So, yeah, I'm really happy about that. LSU beat Georgia State 56-14. Not surprised about that. Oh, and Friday night, NC State, they're 8-3 now. They started off 4-3. They've won 4 in a row. Do they deserve to be in the top 25? Maybe. They beat Virginia Tech 35-28. Their offense is not very good, but that defense ain't no joke. Boy, oh boy. So that's basically it as far as all the scores, who all played and whatnot. Again, Florida State, I think they'll be okay. As a Texas fan, you got to know how Here's the thing. I know we lost to Oklahoma, but we some petty people, man. And Oklahoma will be doing the same thing. Anytime Texas loses, it's funny. I was happy too. And I picked Oklahoma State to beat Oklahoma a few weeks ago. I think I told you in one of my videos, because you said that I hope we beat them too because Kansas upset Oklahoma. And I said I didn't think so at the time. But I looked at the stats. I looked at how they played. You know, coming into that game, they both have a kicker that missed at least 5 field goals. And because it was at Oklahoma State, and I know Mike Gundy really wanted to beat Oklahoma, knowing that he might not get another chance at him. He says they can see each other in bowl games, which they could, but I doubt that. So I know it meant a lot to Mike Gundy, and he had a hard time beating Oklahoma. So I wasn't surprised when they beat Oklahoma. I just didn't trust Oklahoma to respond the right way because Brent Venables has not been a head coach very long. He still doesn't quite have his own team yet because he's still got a lot of Lincoln Riley's leftovers, especially on defense. So I just didn't trust him to come back and beat Oklahoma State, a veteran team with a coach who's been around forever, who's a proven winner. He's won a lot of games at Oklahoma State. That's basically it as far as the scores. But Florida State, I wouldn't be too worried. I think they're just fine. I do think they can play with anybody, even without Jordan Travis, because that makes the rest of the team step up and play better. And again, I love how Florida State's responded to adversity this year. Yeah, but I don't think Michigan deserves it. Even as a Michigan fan, I don't think they deserve to go to the playoffs. I remember watching Uncle Lou on his Your Season is Over video a week or two ago, and he said that there's a possibility, and I agree with him. I think Michigan's last game, their bowl game, should be the Ohio State game. And I like Michigan. I'm saying that because I don't like that they've been caught cheating. I don't think they deserve to go to a bowl. They should not go to the Big Ten championship. I think they should be disqualified. They don't even deserve a playoff game. They really should not be there. I think their ranking should be taken away because they've been caught cheating. And the way they've embraced it, like everyone's against us. No, man, you've just been caught cheating. That's garbage, you know? I don't agree with that. I'm not okay with that. I'm one of the few Michigan fans that will be open about it. I don't think that's fair. Now, I agree. I don't think it's the players' fault. They're not the ones making that decision to go and do all that. I blame Jim Harbaugh for that because he's the head honcho. He runs the program. Because eventually what's going to happen is I'll still be happy about it, but morally, I'm big on morals, you know, in some ways in life. And one of those is if you can't win the right way, you shouldn't even be competing. It's like taking steroids in a sport like the UFC and you get caught with it and you're trying to say you're the best. No, you can't do that because the guy you're fighting probably is clean and yeah, you beat him, but that tells me you don't believe in yourself. You don't think you can win the right way. And that bothers me. Michigan, not to say that anything about steroids, but you get what I'm saying. They had an advantage in these past 3 years because it says it goes back to 2021. Because eventually, you know what's going to happen is the NCAA is going to eventually vacate all these wins. It won't matter. So if it's not going to matter, why would you even put them in the playoffs when their wins are going to get taken away? It should got other spots should go to somebody who deserves it, who's done it the right way. And that's not fair. So I don't like that. I mean, I'd rather be a Michigan fan that can only win 8, 9, 10 games a year, can't beat Ohio State, but that's what it is because it's fair. Then be where you're at now. Yeah, you've won so much, but now those wins are going to eventually be taken away. And for what? I can't respect that. Well, the thing is, the NCAA, they usually take a long time to punish somebody over something like that. So I doubt anything will happen this year, but that's what should happen. That's my opinion. I think Harbaugh being suspended as the coach is a slap on the wrist. He should be fired, at least suspended and fined a bunch of money because this ain't right. I don't like that because as a Michigan fan, I'm going around saying, yeah, we're great. And everyone says, yeah, because you cheated. I don't want to hear that. So that's why you don't see me go on here, especially with all the cheating going on, bragging about how Michigan is the best and all that. I can't say that because that's not fair. Um, but yeah. No, they probably aren't going to forgive him over that, though. I think something's going to happen. It's just going to take time. So that's my opinion. But I'm very disappointed though in how that's happened though. Um, I can't wait, man. This is rivalry week. This is going to be fun. And I got the whole week off because of my personal life. I teach. I'm a college student. I don't have any of that to do this week, so I'm probably going to go live. Scratch that. I will go live more often this week just to get the watch hours. Because even though I got over 1,000 subscribers, I don't have all the watch hours I need in the past year, which is 365 days. So, AIP, again, thanks, man. You've been so loyal in my channel. I like talking to you. You seem like a cool dude. Yeah, I don't like Ohio State. I don't like how Ryan Day was making up excuses about the 2021 game. Now, obviously, he can because Michigan cheated. Hey, did you see Desmond Howard's argument defending Michigan? It was a good argument, probably the best argument, the only argument anybody can make. It was with Stephen A. Smith was saying, well, how do you feel? Because you went to Michigan, you played there, won a Heisman Trophy there many years ago. And now you see Michigan getting caught with all these things. And he said, well, I want to know what sign stealing has to do with someone being tougher than you. Because he made a really good argument. He said how Harbaugh brought in NFL defensive coaches, like the defensive coordinator they've had for the past 2 years. Two different coaches, but defensive caliber coaches. And he said, but if you're moving bodies off the line of scrimmage like Michigan's offensive line has been doing, that's just domination. And that's a great argument. I just don't like that extra advantage of sign stealing. I just don't agree with that. I can't respect that. So even now, I don't know if it's clean. Michigan could still be doing that for all I know. So it was a good argument though from Desmond Howard on that point. I mean, that makes me kind of see it as Michigan being that good more legitimately than not. So I understand that, but I mean, hey, I can't help that, man. I mean, I don't support cheating. I can't. There's no way to defend that. I've been live for 42 minutes. Look at that. Excuse me. But yeah, I think Florida State will probably still make the playoff. I don't see any worries with them playing Florida. I know Florida's offense has been pretty good lately, but again, they know they got to go to a bowl game and they ain't going. And they just lost their quarterback. I think losing Graham Mertz for them hurts them more than Jordan Travis not playing for Florida State because Trey Benson, Toa Philly, really good running backs. Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, and again, Norvell has brought in a bunch of really good receivers lately outside of them that I'm sure are hungry to step up and play too. So whoever plays quarterback, it would hurt Florida State more losing Jordan Travis if this was last year's team because last year's defense was not a top defense. They gave up a lot of points and they got pushed around a lot against teams that ran the football, not just a half like they do this year, but the whole game. So they have a good defense in their back pocket. Their offensive line is still one of the best in the country. And again, Florida State's quarterbacks are all mobile. They're mobile. And because Jordan isn't playing, that's going to make Florida State's offense play better in the running department. So I think Florida State should be okay. They should be. And if not, I mean, hey, I'm still happy to say, hey, they've won 11 games. They haven't done that in almost 10 years. Just to make it to the ACC championship. If they lose to Louisville, I wouldn't be too surprised. Louisville usually beats Florida State. They've beaten them 4 out of the last 9 games. It's been competitive. So I wouldn't be too surprised. And Louisville's a good team this year. I want them to beat Louisville and Florida. It's still possible they lose to Florida. I mean, it is down there in Florida. It's a night game on ESPN, 7:30, whatever time it was. But I just don't think they lose to those teams. I think Florida State's just better. And again, my thing with Louisville is they've been inconsistent this year. They've had kickers miss field goals. Their quarterback, Plummer, he has thrown some picks this year. Their defense is not all that based off what I saw yesterday with Miami. And Miami could not get all that on Florida State's defense. And I know they had a different quarterback, but Van Dyke had not played that good in a long time. So I really wasn't all that impressed with Louisville's game. So I just don't see them doing all that to Florida State, especially when Florida State doesn't give them opportunities like the dumb penalties Miami had at the end of the game. That really ticked me off because I thought Miami was going to win that game. They should have won that game, but to each his own. That's why Miami's not very good right now. Not terrible, just not very good. They're headed in the right direction, honestly. That's my opinion. The culture has clearly changed. But the only thing that worries me is Florida State sleepwalking and thinking they're too good and taking someone like Louisville lightly and getting their butts kicked. That worries me, but I don't think Florida State's going to do that. They've been consistent all year, not just winning, how they've won. They're a mature team. They're an older team. They're a veteran team. So even without Jordan, there's just too many playmakers at Florida State to really let it hurt them that bad. And again, it's not like the offensive line that Florida State had years ago. They're older. They're more mature. They block really well. So they should be fine. I mean, that's just my opinion. They're not. They're just not. That's part of the game, you know. It's what it is. I'm going to go ahead and go now. I'm probably going to make a few more videos, and I'm going to do my workout. Man, I ain't got no lesson plans to make this week. Let's go. I got some grades to put in, but that's all good. So thanks, AIP. I love how you've supported my channel. Hope you stick around, man. So the rest of y'all, there were a few other people that came on. You guys have a great day. I'm going to make some videos. I can't wait to predict more rivalry games. See y'all later. Peace.